went, so I hope that one up fixed. We just
It did, but we'll just talk to Asmani about it.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Time being 9 a.m., I'd like to call our Judicial and Public Safety Committee meeting to order. My name is Myrna Molina. I will be chairing today, Thursday, May 12th. Next item on the agenda is roll call.
Davis?
Davis here.
Brown? Gums?
Gums here.
Leonard?
Leonard here.
Sanchez? Shepro? Burog? Molina?
Molina present. I see Mr. Sanchez online as well.
That will give you a quorum.
Okay.
Sanchez is here.
Okay, we are going to defer our minutes till next month. Next item on the agenda is public comment. I might have had one person signed up to speak, Mr. Bertha, but I don't see him in the room or online. So we're going to move on to our financial reports. Our judiciary financial reports are on file. And we're going to be moving really quickly today. Next item on our agenda is the Merit Commission. Do we have anybody here from Merit Commission? Okay. So KingCom, good morning, Ms. Guthrie.
All right, our monthly reports are on file. Same priorities that we've had all year, training, hiring, always the focus. In addition, just something we're keeping our eye on is House Bill 4700. That when the Illinois state budget was passed, in April, just prior to when it was passed, there was a sweep of our 911 surcharge funds, close to $5 million that was redirected from 911 to 988. And 988 is going to be the National Suicide Hotline, an extremely important development for mental health. However, the 911 funds have not been swept in about 7 years. So all of our 911 organizations, APCO, NENA, everyone stands in opposition to the sweep because we're trying to figure out what that means for our 911 centers and future funding. But there is a concern that it would eliminate our ability to receive federal grants as well. So I will keep everybody updated as we move through that process. We hope to have more information soon. But as far as we have been told, we won't see any reduction in funds or any changes prior to July 1st. And our legislative partners are trying to put something in place. So hopefully the governor will veto this action. And that is all I have this morning.
And Ms. Guthrie, just to clarify, the 5 million is a statewide. So
Yes,
we don't know how much of that would really affect KingCom directly, right?
correct. Or King County as a whole.
County.
We have 5 PSAPs in King County. We're not sure what that looks like for all of our PSAPs, short-term and long-term. We stand in opposition. The concern is that it would set some sort of precedence that this type of action and sweeping of our funds is something that can be done. And we are in opposition to that.
Absolutely. And we don't have any information or jurisdiction over the 988. Do we? Like, how do you know anything about how the 988 number is going to work?
We don't have a lot of information on how 988 at this time will integrate with 911. There will obviously be some crossover of some sort. We're not sure what those particulars look like at this time. As we do now, where we work with the crisis lines, between crisis and 911, we will continue that partnership, but we're just not sure what that looks like, what kind of technology 988 will be using, if it will be similar to 911. So we're waiting on more information for that as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Leonard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Guthrie, with respect, you had mentioned federal funding on grants. Do you have any idea what amount we average per year in federal grants?
Currently, we're only receiving state grants. So all the next generation 911 grants that we've received in the past, we have received from state grants. However, with, infrastructure bills and something more on a federal level that 911 would qualify for, that would impact, not only Illinois, but everyone else if other states were to follow suit with doing similar action.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for KingCom? Okay, we will move along to our sheriff.
Madam Chair, Shepro.
Oh, Mr. Shepard, go ahead.
Yeah, I apologize for my computer decided to do updates at 8:59. So it took a while. I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Did you have any questions for KingCom?
No.
Okay, we'll mark you present. Okay,
Thank you.
go ahead for Sheriff.
Good morning, Under Sheriff Gangler on behalf of Sheriff Hain. Our reports are on file. I think we have one resolution up today. It's for the purchase of AEDs for our squad cars. I think it's 80 of them. I'm not sure the exact number, but it will standardize the same AED in every car. So if one deputy shows up, he doesn't have to try to figure out how to use another deputy's AEDs.
Okay, may I have a motion and a second to discuss and potentially approve?
Leonard moves.
Shepro seconds.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Leonard, second by Mr. Davis. Okay, this is a pretty standard request. Any questions or comments? Okay, may I please have roll call?
Brown, Gomes,
Gomes, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Shepro,
Shepro, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes.
Passes.
Okay, this passes and it'll move on to our Finance Committee. Okay, anything else from our sheriff? Any questions? All right, great. We'll move on to our state's attorney, Ms. Mosser. Good morning.
Good morning. My apologies for not being there today, but I'm having an issue with one eye, so I'm going to try and go to the eye doctor soon. So our monthly report is on file for review. We do have one resolution that I can go ahead and introduce if you would like me to do that now.
Yes, please go ahead.
So we are in the process of finalizing our end of the year reports. And so we're looking at some of the trends that we've seen. One of the trends that we have noticed and probably should have realized a while ago is the crimes to the elderly. What we have seen as a result of the pandemic is that those who are in a situation where they're stuck in a home with an abuser has created issues for individuals and their ability to report. What we've seen is an increase, obviously, in our abuse and neglect cases with children, our domestic violence cases, and now we're seeing that with the elderly as well. Those individuals who have been stuck in a home with abusive people, those individuals who may have dementia or other issues and family members stealing from them. So we've seen those financial implications that have been happening as well. We've also seen a rise in our financial cases. Recently, we just charged a case in which an individual stole approximately $400,000 from his employer. And so as a result of this, we are looking at bringing somebody in who has an expertise in regards to these cases. One, working with the elderly, especially people who may have issues such as dementia, as well as somebody who has a knowledge of finances. Having to comb through some of these very difficult transactions is something that most lawyers don't have the ability to have because we don't have a financial background. So we are looking to add somebody who can do both of those different specialized areas of elder abuse and financial crimes. In addition to that, we're seeking a second position, which is for our drug unit. Our drug unit is supposed to have 4 prosecutors within it. Right now, we only have 3. As you're aware, I have been moving people around within the office. We have created vertical prosecution units. The purpose of vertical prosecution units is to have people who have specialized knowledge in different areas of the law. By doing this, it's our belief that we provide consistency in terms of our offers, and we're able to actually move a case quicker through the system because it's somebody who knows these types of cases and doesn't have to do additional research. We had a person in our office who was supposed to go into the drug unit. All of that was going to go consistently with a change that we had been discussing with the chief judge about having our second floor be all domestic violence and DUI cases. And once that happened, a person was going to be able to leave a courtroom and go into the drug unit. However, because we now have to deal with the Pretrial Fairness Act and implement that in our county, and because we were lucky enough to be chosen as a pilot site for that, we're unable to make that transition. And so as a result of that, we need to hire somebody to go into the drug unit specifically to work with our class 3 and 4 drug cases. Now, these are the cases where it's possession, which means people are having addiction issues. And we want to be able to divert those individuals into treatment instead of having them go through a lengthy criminal court system. Obviously, drug cases, as we know, because of addiction, is something that we are seeing trending up as well. So that is why we are in need of an additional person to hire. The good news is that once we have the Pretrial Fairness Act in place and once we are able to convert our second floor, that additional person can then be one of the people that we know we are going to need for the Safety Act purposes that are coming into effect on January 1st. So at this time, I'm asking for the creation of those two positions within my office. We have discussed this with Mr. Anzik, who has suggested where the funding would come from that, and then it is included in our resolution. And I would be more than happy to answer any questions at this time.
Okay, may I have a motion and a second to discuss and potentially approve?
Leonard moves.
Davis second.
Mr. Leonard moves, Mr. Davis seconds. Okay, any questions for our state's attorney? Ms. Mosser, increasing staff obviously brings other things that we're going to need, such as space for your two new employees. Do you have a plan of where these employees are going to work?
We do, yes.
Right.
So we're doing a lot of kind of office sharing in terms of this. And next week, Mr. Fonstock is actually coming in to look at our office to see how we can kind of partition some of the bigger offices. So we do have a space plan for them now.
And then second question regarding the allocation of funding, is this for fiscal 22? So this is just from July to or June till the end of the year. So this is 6 months worth, or
Yeah.
what is the amount being allocated? Okay.
So yes, I think right now though, the allocation is for the entire year, but what we would only be getting it for is for the next 6 months.
Sure. Even though I'm not a member of the board, could I ask Ms. Masser a question?
Please go ahead, Chief Judge.
So Ms. Masser, Chief Judge Hall, and so as it relates to the second floor project, one of the other impediments is the fact that the public defender's down a position. Is that not down a position, but when we implement your plan for the second floor, if we do that, we've identified the fact that in doing that, the public defender's office doesn't have the necessary assistant public defenders to cover that courtroom as you've designed it. Is that correct?
So I would ask Ms. Conan to answer. I know she's down people now, but I believe that she does have the ability to do it when she's fully staffed. But I would inquire of her if she plans or needs an additional person.
You're up.
Thank you. Yes, in regards to the second floor project, we would, even fully staffed, would still be down one attorney, which will be a part of my budget in the upcoming year.
I mean, I think
Or
to,
2023, sorry.
I think, and I say, Master, I don't want to misspeak. So, but in talking about the second floor project,
Mhm.
Ms. Master came to us as a group and had an idea as to how she thinks that the judicial system as a team could combat domestic violence. And this was this idea of putting all the DUI and DV cases, family cases on the second floor. In doing that, we spent a lot of time working together and with the clerk's office to try to figure out numbers and courtroom staffing. But again, it was my understanding that once we implemented that, Ms. Masser's goal of putting the ASAs in the courtroom was going to result in the PD having to restructure and reshift as well. And in that restructuring and reshifting, the state's attorney's office had the necessary assistance, but Ms. Conant did not. And I just want to make sure that that's something that we've identified for the county board and for this, because as we move forward, if we want to implement that second floor plan to do it and to do it the way that we need to do it to be successful, we need Ms. Conant to have an equal number of an equal number of assistant public defenders to be able to do it effectively. Ms. Conant, Ms. Spasser, any comments or thoughts on that?
No, I would agree.
Okay, so not anything that pertains to this, but when Ms. Masser talked about the second floor plan, I wanted to make sure that I was forthright and upfront about the fact that in order to make that plan work, we're coming to you in the next, in our budget cycle to ask for an additional assistant public defender to be able to equalize that and make that process work.
Thank you, Chief Judge. I think that's kind of where we want to make sure when we're adding additional employees, we know that there is a ripple effect, that it doesn't just end with one department. So when we ask for money to be allocated to one department, we're going to need that to be allocated to other departments. So I want to make sure that our financial director is kind of in the loop when it comes to these decisions. They're not silo. It's not a silo decision. It's not a silo effect. So I'm not sure if Mr. Anzak has been in the loop when it comes to these decisions, so I'm hesitant to push this forward until I know kind of like the full effect of where we're at financially with this. But I'm going to let Mr. Leonard speak. He might have some insight.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to mention that Mr. Ansick does know about the two states attorney's position. He understands that the funding is available. And I think in Ms. Conant's department too, not this year, but in 23, we will allocate money for that. It's truly a justice issue. We have to have defenders against the prosecutors. So, and we do have money available there too through either COVID or the American Rescue Plan. So the funding is available. We can handle it. And this is something that needs to be done now for everyone in Kane County. So I will support this resolution.
Yeah, I always pause when it comes to using COVID funds because they're there until they're not, which is I think 2 years from now. So let's be, responsible when it comes to the, continuing to use COVID funds for something that isn't going to be only for 2 years. We're going to need these attorneys there for, 100 years. So we have to think about that as well. Mr. Shepro, go ahead.
Yeah. Why do we need to actually approve this? I mean, doesn't the state's attorney have authority under internal control to implement this change?
So I do, but that doesn't mean that I have the money for it. And I would like to be a good fiscal steward as a state's attorney, which means I don't want to just hire somebody and say, well, I've blown my budget. Can you just fix it afterwards? I'm trying to be very proactive with it.
Okay.
And
I mean, the authorization that's really would be needed is the budget adjustment.
Correct.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Thank you.
Even with only one good eye, she's looking ahead.
Bravo on that one.
And joking aside, I mean,
Mr. Leonard, could I have a comment, please?
Madam Chair Parag, I think Mr. Davis was in the middle of a.
I'll defer to the chairman, let her go first. Seems like the right thing to do.
Ms. Parag, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard, for your courtesy. I truly appreciate it.
This is Ms. Molina. We sound alike, but go ahead.
No, not at all. No, then I was going to say, thank you, Ms. Molina. Please, let me finish. I agree with your comments, Chair Molina, regarding the fiscal management of this. We do have to be mindful that the American Rescue Plan and COVID money is a short-term fund balance. It does not sustain long-term needs. We're going to have to take a serious look at this. I am in support of this. Obviously, it's well needed and it's important for our community to have these resources and fair judicial presence and support. So, Jamie, you have my full support with this. But the funding part of it is something we have to take a look at for the long haul. So while we may have the COVID reimbursement funds available currently, they will not be currently available, as you had mentioned wisely, in the very near future. So I want to be mindful of all of that. And one other question, is this part of the Safety Act or is this separate from?
No, this is separate from. This is just a need that we're identifying based on essentially trends that are happening as we go through this. And we'll see this often, that there are different things that happen. We've had trends where car burglaries were just escalating, things like that. And so this is just something we're identifying that we really think is because of the pandemic.
Sure. No, sure. Absolutely. Okay, very good. Thank you again for letting me interrupt. I'll be quiet again.
No, you're welcome. Mr. Leonard, did you have something to add?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to mention that Ms. Mossert had mentioned that one of these two positions is a requirement under the mandate. So in fact, that is half of this would be a mandated requirement that we're going to have to implement in the very near future. So it's not like we're adding two people and then the mandated people, we're actually adding one with an early mandate requirement under the Safety Act.
Thank you. Ms. Scums, I see your hand was raised.
Yes, thank you. I just kind of wanted to pair it on the COVID money Every time we discuss these positions, I'm in full support of this. We had a windfall of money. I'm using air quotes there. That was discovered, so that's a good start. But every single time we talk about hiring and adding wages, and the one word that comes to mind is sustainability. And then that word, ARPA money comes in there, COVID money comes in there, and it completely, like, it goes out of my brain. That's not sustainable. Stop talking about it. So I'm in support of this, and we have bigger, longer term issue to address.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments, Mr. Davis?
I'll try. Obviously, we hold the purse strings and we always have to be mindful of budgets. And I was happy to hear Ms. Masser refer to talking to Mr. Anzik about this ahead of time. As Bill pointed out, some of it is in response to the Safety Act, but it's also, what I'm happy to see is that it's prompted a lot of thought about how we do things. In the private sector, there's always a danger of, why are we doing this like this? Because that's how we've always done it. And that's not a great way to, apply yourself to a task at hand. So we're identifying things here like the elder abuse. And we have an opportunity to be, for Kane County to be a leader again and look out for folks as we get older. I guess I'll have to start thinking about it myself. Got to look out for you, Mike.
Yeah.
So, so these things really are important, and we always will have to figure out a way to fund them. And then in another twist, this is a very useful exercise because we had a great meeting yesterday with admin talking about physical facilities. And so some of these changes that you're talking about, literally who exists on which floor and which office and so forth are things that people like White and Company and we need to know, because as we move forward, all of these new people need a place to sit. We're already packed up. The Chief Judge is telling me how he's using closets and looking at empty ambulances and everything. He might not have said that last. He might not have said that last time. Yeah. So this is really important. It's great input, and it applies in a number of different areas. We'll be interested in hearing more at admin about it too. Keep us informed. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as a committee, I see we have consensus over the idea that these two positions are clearly needed for our state's attorney. The question is really the financial aspect. But luckily for us, we're not in charge of the financial aspect. We're more in charge of the policy version of it. So I guess I will end debate unless Mr. Sanchez has something to add regarding our COVID funds. Our COVID expert?
I do not.
Okay. Okay. Seeing no other comments, may I please have roll call?
Brown, Gums,
Gums, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Shepro,
Jeffro, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes. Okay. This passes on to our finance committee. So I'm sure we'll have more robust conversations there in finance.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you all very much.
Okay. Anything else, Ms. Mosser?
No, thank you.
Okay. Okay. We will move on to our public defender.
Thank you. Good morning. Our reports are on file. Just wanted to give a little additional information. I looked at numbers this time last year to this time this year. And for open and closed cases, we are almost exactly, it's about a 1% difference between this time last year and this time this year. Continue to see the trends of abuse and neglect numbers coming in higher, and domestic battery or domestic related situations. Those are our two highest areas of cases right now. So again, same trends as last year, but just to kind of supplement those reports, we are on track to the same as last year. In relation to that, I just want to take a moment to express my great appreciation that our resolution was passed this week. We are very happy for that. And especially to this committee who has been so supportive of us from the beginning and recognizing the need for equity and pay, and also recognizing the value of attorneys no matter what department that they work in. And especially to Mr. Leonard for helping guide me specifically and his leadership to get through this. I am very grateful for that. And finally, to State's Attorney Mosser and Judge Hull, I know that they have spoke out several times to this committee in favor of my requests, and they did not have to do that. They could be just focus on their own budgets and not care what happens to my budget or to our department, but they took the time to speak out in support of this. And I think that speaks very highly of the work that we do together and of them specifically, in that they were more focused on what is the good for the criminal justice system than worrying about their own situation. So I'm very grateful to everyone, as is my whole department. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Conant. Any questions or comments for our public defender? Okay, so we will move on to our judiciary and courts. Chief Judge Hall.
Good morning, everybody. Just a couple of things. One is I just want to continue to report on the Safety Act again. For the court system, the big day is January 1st of 2023. And so we continue to focus on that. We respectively, Ms. Mosser, Ms. Conant, Ms. Ost, the sheriff, all of us are on statewide committees, listening to the concerns across the state, which is helpful. And then we're also very active in the 16th in preparation. So just to bring you up to speed, we're meeting on a weekly basis. We're trying to break the act down chronologically, starting with law enforcement and how that's going to impact law enforcement at the scene, what the circuit clerk's office has to do with the new provisions, and we're working our way through. And I feel like we're making good progress. There's things that it's a new law, so we're going to have to just implement what we think are best practices, but most importantly, we're doing it together. It's a lot of work, and I'm very appreciative of everybody's staff for doing that. In addition to, going to court every day and doing all the things that have to get done, everybody, this is another project. But I just want to continue to keep you up to date. We were appreciative that the multipurpose room expansion was passed by the full county board. That is obvious. That's something that's directly related to the Safety Act. And so we're very appreciative of that. And that'll be a good step in us being able to do what we need to do on January 1st. Before I move on, does anybody have any questions about the Safety Act or anything as far as where we're at with that? Okay. Second, you've heard us talk about the strategic planning document, just to bring you up to speed, because we haven't talked about it for a while. But again, Chair Molina and Madam Chair talked about, this was probably a year and a half ago, about the importance of trying to have a document so that we were all, when we talk about all of the justice partners, kind of rowing in the right direction and previewing for all of you what our goals were, instead of coming in at different times. And so as a result of the suggestion of Madam Chair, what we did is, again, we reached out, we were able to get a grant, and we have a facilitator from Colorado who's been working us through this process for about the last year now. And so she's come in, again, at no cost to the county, and a number of people here and a number of different offices have been involved in trying to identify and prioritize what we want to do in this system for the next 3 to 5 years. And so we are very, very close to having a final report. Timing wise, I think it's fantastic, because I know Mr. Davos talked about all the work that you're doing in admin, but I think that the timing of our report is going to coincide with your report. So I think that that's fantastic. And I look forward to bringing that to you. We did announce that Hallie Cox, who's our law librarian, our head law librarian, we've named her the director of strategic planning. So we've given her the task of overseeing the implementation of all the different priorities. A really, really difficult position. When I went through the facilitator and she described all the attributes that person had to have, she had to be respected, she had to be likable, she had to be passionate, or he had to be hardworking, had to be able to build consensus. There were about 20 different boxes, and Doug and Andrea started by saying that that was her. And then when we got all those boxes checked, it was her. So we've done that. We've tried to bump her salary a little bit in recognition of that. Probably not enough to recognize that, but I think she'll do a fantastic job. So I look forward to bringing that to you as a group, very soon. And then the final thing that I wanted to say, and it echoes what Ms. Conant said, but So I've been a part of the county. So I was licensed in 1993. So I'm coming up on 30 years. I've spent most of my career in the 16th Judicial Circuit. When you start your career, you really don't know what the county board does. But as you get older and you continue to rise up, you learn more and more about how important the county board is. And I want to just start by just telling you that, as the chief judge for the last 2.5 years, I've had an up close view at how difficult your job is. And we come to you consistently asking for more and more and more. And then you as a body have to try to prioritize not only our needs, but transportation and everything else. And as I've sat here for 2.5 years, I'm really kind of in amazement as to all the work that you do. And also understanding that most of you have full-time jobs on top of this. But as Ms. Conant had said, when I thought about the resolution that was just passed, that brought the public defender's salaries in line with the state's attorney, it was one of the proudest days I've had as chief judge. And we were watching and following. And this is why. I know it's never easy, but a new idea, an idea like that has to start somewhere. And when I look at the county board, it started right here. This is where it started, in this room. And if you and this committee didn't give us your support, it wouldn't have gotten any place. And I know that you have so many different asks and so many different priorities, but when I look at how important that vote was, I don't think you'll probably realize the impact that you had. But it's not just money, it's the message that was sent to the entire judicial system that the public defender's office and the job that they do is as important as the job of the state's attorney. And as a 17-year prosecutor, I've had to grow as a lawyer. And I know at one point in time when I was in the trenches doing cases against the public defender's office, I would argue to how much more important the prosecutor's office was than the PD's. Now, they say you get more wise with age. I've come to learn that for the system to work, both offices have to be there. They have to be strong, and they have to be respected. And so, for me, I've learned that lesson. But again, this committee, each one of you here, made a decision to support that, and I can't thank you enough. And so, just thank you. I know it's one of many votes, but it was a huge vote and one that will have a ripple effect for a long, long time. So thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Any comments or questions for our judge? Okay, we will move on to our Court Services Administration.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Our detention report is on file. It's hard to follow an uplifting speech with anything. I do want to talk for a little bit about our turnover within the department. When you look at our materials that are on file, you'll see that we're under budget again this year, and it's halfway through the fiscal year. And part of the reason for that is I currently have 10 open positions in the juvenile detention facility. Over the last, or since January, from January through April, the first quarter, I had a 9% turnover within the department. That's 17 positions. Of those, 2 were retirements. One person with 33 years left the position, which is wonderful. I was very happy for her and her long career. Another person had 21 years and she's retired and she's moving on. But this continues to be a difficult field. I mean, no doubt about it, especially in community corrections during the pandemic and in juvenile detention. They couldn't work from home and they came to work every single day. And a lot of low risk offenders were being deflected from the system, which meant it was a high concentration of the highest risk offenders that our people were working with. And so it's a high stress environment. So having said all that, we do exit interviews and we look at where they're going and what are they making and why are they leaving. And so we lost 4 people to Cook County because they start at $10,000 more a year. And so I don't want to keep, banging on that drum, but I want to make sure that I'm giving you good foreshadowing as we go into the budget cycle and we start talking about what are our staffing needs and what does pretrial act look like and things of that nature. I had 2 people leave to go become mental health clinicians who were able to work from home because they don't want to work in person anymore. And then that also plays into later when we start talking about the pretrial safety act and needing perhaps more psychology staff. What's that going to look like? So this is more just making sure that I'm giving you the right information that we need as we have these conversations move forward. And I really don't have any resolutions or anything else this morning.
Thank you, Ms. Austin. This is a conversation we have every month in our committee, but I know our Human Services Committee is also having it when it comes to our salaries for our county employees and how important that is to make sure that we're providing our employees with the best possible quality of life that they can have because of the service they provide us as residents here. So I know Mr. Sturgis isn't on, but I know that they're working hard to make sure that there's a salary study done, hopefully by August. So I hope that you've been working with Ms. Labrillo to kind of make sure that whatever we're asking for our budget next year makes it so that we're a comparable place to work compared to other counties, because I mean, to have two people that we're losing to Cook County, I mean, for $10,000, you're driving, an hour and a half a day. Like the quality of life there and the balance, I think, are things that we need to make sure that we're retaining our employees. And it's not just a money issue, but money is very important. So thank you for bringing that to our attention again this month. Any other questions?
Just to confirm, you said 10 open?
10
10
currently
open
open
positions.
in detention. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we will move on to our circuit clerk.
Hi, good morning, Karen Herwick for.
Good morning,
Trista
Karen.
Valera. She's at a conference this week, so she sends her apologies. Our report is on file, and the only other thing to highlight is we've spent the last month doing some career fairs and job fairs at schools and stuff like that, trying to continue our hiring initiative for the office. We are currently in our court teams, we are currently still 6 people short in what we're trying to hire. So we are working on that. We have some other vacancies, but right now getting those court teams and office area staffed is what we're working towards.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for our circuit clerk? Okay, we will move on to our coroner. Mr. Russell, good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, yes, reports on file. Don't really have anything else to report.
Okay, any comments or questions?
Try not to take so long next time, Rob.
Okay, so we will move on to old business. So last month and the month before, we had discussed our task for the county code additions to our county code 2-48, our section of the code. Blair, can you bring that up on the screen for me? So basically, the only comment I had received was just to make sure that we're adding the Office of Emergency Management to our jurisdiction, since it now falls under the sheriff. Ms. Labrillo would like us to discuss this and have it so that they're able to make their action next month. So does anybody have anything else they wanted to add or make any additions to the county code at this time?
Ma'am.
So yes, I had a.
Mrs. Ost, sorry, Mrs. Mosser, hold on one second. Mrs. Ost, go ahead.
So the section on court services uses some out-of-date language. I was confused in who to send that to, so I apologize that I did not send it to you. May I send it to you as soon as I get back to my office? For example, it talks about the Department of the Youth Home. I mean, that was done away with about 20, 25 years ago. So I just want to update what those titles are. It's just court services now.
Okay, so if we could just make note that Mrs. Ost is going to make sure that we update it to just court services. The action that we're taking today, our exercise, is to just review it for the 3rd time. We're going to pass this on to Human Services with our additions from today. It's not a now or never thing, but it's a now or, in the next few years sort of thing. So
Human Services is still actively gathering all of this.
right. And I think they
We haven't
wanted
even
to.
started the long haul of them sifting through it and trying to put it all together, but it is time to try to get it into us. And
Yeah, so we're kind of,
sharing with
we'll,
Sherman
we'll,
or with
yeah.
Jamie Labrillo or
We'll corral this
Sturgis.
into,
I like
yeah.
that. Give it to him.
Yeah, we'll corral this into our version, and then Human Services could take it on from there. But other than that sort of verbiage, anything else? Mrs. Mosser, you had something?
Yes, so Ms. Ost has actually sent it to me, and I have one from the coroner as well as the sheriff. So I was compiling all of those together to be able to send off to you as well.
Okay, if you can send those to me, because we were working on this for this month. It's not going to come before our committee again. So if there's any major changes that we need to discuss, let's discuss that now. I have the court services changes. What else was, what is on for the sheriff?
So in addition to that, I think that the thought process was with making sure that it was very clear, the internal control portion in comparison. So I think that's mostly what the sheriff and coroner and myself had concerns with.
Okay, so I think the internal control is probably going to be a question that's going to be asked for other committees. Unless we're the only committee that has elected officials? No, you're also going to have a couple others. So anything that's dealing with internal control, I think that can be a bigger question for Human Services Committee to review. So, Mr. Shepro? I
Yes,
see you came up on my screen. Go ahead.
yeah, I wasn't sure if I were unmuted. I just wanted to report back that I have had one long meeting with Assistant State's Attorney Neerman to start working on the text of the amendment, and we made some progress, but we're still compiling additional information. So we are seized of those issues, and as I say, I think that was the only change that affected this committee directly.
Okay. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna make a motion to go ahead and pass it along with the change of the OME and the verbiage changes for the court services. Everything else regarding internal controls, I think Ms. Mosser can work with Ms. Neerman on the full county code, not just our department. Anybody have any objections to that? Okay, so I'll make a motion. I'll entertain a motion to pass this on with those two changes.
You want a consensus?
Do we do that, or should we do a unanimous consensus?
Let's do what Mr. Shepro said.
I'll ask for unanimous.
All right, I'll make that request.
I'll let him do it. Yeah,
All right. No objections? Okay, so we will pass this along. It's off our table. Okay.
Thank you.
And thank you. And then I will also ask for unanimous consent to place our reports on file.
Leonard
Sanchez,
moves.
Mr. Leonard moves. Okay, so we have consent to place our reports on file. We don't have a need for executive session. So I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Care of it.
On behalf of Mr. Kenyon, I moved to adjourn.
Okay,
Sanchez
motion to adjourn by
seconds.
Mr. Davis, second by Mr. Sanchez.
Oh, did you do reports on file? I was talking to.
Yeah, we did
That's
that.
his fault.
We did that.
Then my motion stands.